Can we talk about your recent trip to Australia? I know that you have always taken a really strong political voice, which is awesome, and I know you've thrown your support around the voice to Parliament. And I think there's some Australians who would watch Nine and might not be engaged with it, might not understand it, but they will listen to you. So can you explain to me why it is important for a voice to Parliament?
Yeah, look, I think my role, or where I've been able to get to in my career and understand the platform or the voice that I might have, and being able to not only represent Indigenous people but non-Indigenous and all Australians as well. It's something that I take a lot of pride in being that person, but I also it's one part of why I was so proud to be the flag bearer for the Tokyo Olympics last year. It's something that, going back to Australia and being a part of anything that keeps me connected to Australia. There's a real, deep lying, inner part of myself that I love about our country and everything that goes with it. But I think all of that comes back to culture, to identity, to Indigenous people, to Indigenous voices, and being able to acknowledge them and recognise that, I think is powerful on all fronts. So my part in sport and within basketball and other things on the side, it definitely is important. So hopefully, one day that it's not only sports, it's something else, but something that is important.
I know that when you were with the Spurs, I think you were really behind the push to have the First Nations night. You've obviously done huge things. You've been instrumental in really promoting Indigenous basketball back home. How far have we come, and how can we do better?
As a country?
Yeah. And in basketball, in sport, and Australia in general, I guess, yeah.
I think it is. I think it is in sport because there's still a long way to go. I think we've come a way, but if you throw in not only basketball and other sports in there, especially at grassroots levels, junior levels, even at professional levels in Australia. You throw in AFL, you throw in NRL and rugby and netball. There's still things there that zero tolerance in that sort of behaviour in that environment. It's Australia, it's sports. We all love sports. We want that environment to be safe for all of our kids and all of our players. So although we've come a long way in that sense, I think there's still some more to be able to gain, and it just comes back to educating and having those genuine sit-downs where you can find out more about, the people or the person, and vice versa. I think that's probably I like to say modern day storytelling, where you sit down over a coffee, as all Australians do, and you get to learn about each other. So in that sense, yes, look, the more that I've been able to play on the other side of the world, the more that I've realised that I don't only inspire Indigenous Australians, but I inspire Indigenous people from all over the world, which is still mind-blowing to me. Here in America, in Canada, other parts in Europe, and it's been South America. It's opened my eyes to the part of me understanding, well, I am affecting a lot of people here to stay with it and keep on doing it. But I think that basketball as our sport, which is where I have the platform as my sport, being able to create Indigenous Basketball Australia, where I'm kind of fulfilling a gap there, which just wasn't there for basketball in Australia. It wasn't catering to Indigenous people. And when I look at myself being the third Indigenous Australian to represent the Boomers at an Olympic Games and a World Cup, Uncle Danny being the one before me, 30 odd years before, my motivation is to hopefully not be another 30 years before the next Indigenous person, you know, puts on that Boomers jersey. So in starting IBA, Indigenous Basketball Australia, is helping that void, I guess, and just being able to create opportunities and pathways in basketball, but at the same time, you know, being able to use that identity and culture for the kids to learn that you don't have to be ashamed to be who you are. And that's the biggest lesson that we have at IBA, because that's the reality is, especially in a sporting environment, that they got to leave their identity at the door to be accepted by other people in the sporting locker room or fields. So that's something that we definitely focus on.
You would see that in your clinics, right? These kids watching you being the flag bearer, leading the Boomers to our first medal at the Olympics, like all of that stuff. Do you see these kids suddenly make that connection and go, hey, guess what? I can be like Patty Mills. I can dream like that. Definitely,
because the kids that we are creating these opportunities and pathways, they're kids that you know, they don't have goal settings. They don't know what goal settings are. They don't have the vision. They can't see it, you know, which is why it's powerful when they see me, someone that they can relate to. Then that opens up their mind and the thought of like, oh, maybe I can do this if Paddy can. So I think that's why it's so important to me to be able to go back every time and literally stand in front of them and talk to them and be there so that they can see it firsthand. I think that's probably the most impactful way that I've felt from these kids. But you know, it's again, it's just about opportunity. It's just about a pathway. It's just about them being able to vision, you know, and visualize that, oh, I can go to the Olympics or I can be in the NBA. But I think there's some deeper lying things here that it's really about. It's about the importance of identity. It's about respect. It's about culture. It's about discipline and all of these values that these kids can learn along the way. Look, if it happens to be basketball at the end of the day, great. If not, great. As long as they're on this path to, you know, learning these things so that they can do something and use that identity and culture, then I think that's the main deal.
This is a bit of a cliche.